the more complicated something is, the more likely it is to fail. Like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it breeds failure. So like how do you, so resiliency is part of this plan, right? Because you cannot have Indiana Jones go down because he can't put his hat back on, right? It cannot come to that because people get mad. People get mad.
Right.
So what did they do to make those systems better? Because it's not just like created an experience that is seamless as possible and you're going to buy it. It's going to run all the time, like all the time, and it's never
All
ever
the
ever
time.
going to break.
Yeah. Well,
Complication is the enemy of reliability. Like it
I
absolutely.
I totally agree. And you know what? I wouldn't say ride failure, but let's say ride experience degradation is something that happens in some of these more themed rides. So I can't tell you how many times I've watched Indiana Jones just sort of stand there and say the same thing 5 times in a row, right? And he just he would continue to do something, but the ride would continue, right? And so the systems are built in a modular fashion so that one actuator, one audio, one different programmed process, it doesn't have to work in order for everything else to work, right?
Right.
And it's the analogy is microservices before microservices. So the whole ride isn't totally dependent upon the whole, the hat coming on and off and him, saying something silly. And I think that, when you're talking about complexity, it's a bit of a lesson, I think, to not just us as professional technologists, but in the theme park space as well. The most complicated audio animatronic system that I know of is the Yeti in Expedition Everest in Florida. I got to ride that thing very early on. I think it was a Gartner conference or something that I was there, and I got to see it do its whole thing, and it moved around and jumped, and I don't remember all the different stuff it did, but it was quite impressive. It looked like a freaking Yeti. So, perhaps Bigfoot does live and he lives in Florida. But it broke. The thing broke, and they figured that it was just too expensive to try to try to maintain because it was going to break again. So here's the most complex audio animatronic thing ever invented or created, and it doesn't do anything anymore. I think they nicknamed like the Disco Yeti or something because there's lights that flash and stuff, and he just stands there and looks menacing.
He's not much of a, that's my point, right? Like if you only like old stuff, you're never disappointed, right? So if I want the terror and thrill of an animatronic whatever, I'll just ride the jackrabbit with my brother while he tries to kill me. It's really it tons of adrenaline. I now have PTSD from it. Like for me, it's this idea that, and maybe it's because I grew up at Kennywood, right? And Kennywood wasn't the land of like record breaking, every once in a while. I mean, the Steel Phantom is no joke. That thing goes 90 miles
Yeah,
an hour. You have to take all your
yeah,
jewelry off before you get on it, or you're definitely going to lose it. There's a sign that says, take out your earrings or your head will bleed. Like, it's not a joke. Like, it's a rough
wow,
ride. And it's really, really fast, and it's really, really steep. I mean, it's a good coaster. It's a good metal coaster. But that's not why I would go. I would go to ride the Thunderbolt. I would go to ride the Racers. I'd go to ride a
yeah,
Log Jammer. I would ride the Whip. And there's a part of Kennywood now. It's called Old Kennywood. And it's all the old
that's
rides,
cool.
right? So it's the Whip. They called it shoot the lake or whatever it was. It was just a
Oh,
big boat that would go down a chute and splash, and everybody would get wet. You see them at
oh,
parks now.
yeah,
Those
yeah,
were around
yeah,
in 1901. A lot of people
right,
drowned because it was like the Vasa. Every time it hit the water, it would just fall over. So a lot of people got hurt in it. But nowadays that doesn't happen anymore.
right,
And so people don't get hurt on that. But like old Kennywood, it has the the chair spinning, and it's all the old rides that were from the 1900s. And it's my favorite place in the park now because like that's me. I like the turtles. I like the whips. I like the little roller coasters.
Yeah.
I don't need Yetis. I don't need any of that. And even the stuff in Kennywood that is like that. There's Noah's Ark. So there were things in the early 1900s where they were fun houses. Remember the fun houses stuff you would see, and
Yes.
the boards would bounce while you tried to walk on them, and
Right.
things there would be spinning things on the floor, so it was really hard to catch your balance. Then you'd be in a hall of mirrors and you can't figure out how to get out. That was Noah's Ark in Kennywood.
That's
It was the
cool.
fun house, right? That
Yeah.
was from 1904 or something crazy like that. It's been around forever. So it's those rides for me. I don't expect much from them. But every single time, it's like hanging around with your old friends, right? Like it's just a really
Right.
good thing, and I really, really like that. So while you were enthralled by the technology, I was just craving the click, 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 click. That's all I craved.
Yeah.
Click, 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 click. I love it.
Well, and I think now, especially, I can't tell you how many years I've had a Disneyland pass, an annual pass. Like, even when I wasn't living in California, I had a pass for several years. And we, living in the UK, had passes up until COVID time
Mm,
for Disneyland for Paris. So, like, I mean, we would go a lot,
mm.
and I think for me, growing up, so it's like such a core memory growing up around that stuff as a kid, and then having the opportunity to do that with my kids and show them all the same rides, right? And show them, Pirates of the Caribbean and how hokey that stuff is, and
And I
Peter
remember
Pan and all that.
before those
They
kids,
they love. I know.
you took us. Like you would
I
take me
know.
and Sam a couple times a year. We'd go to
Yeah.
Disneyland, and I would like, I don't want to go to the most crowded place on earth. And you'd be like, "Shut up, come on, it'll be fun." And I would
Yeah.
go, and it would be the most
Yeah.
crowded place on earth. But I would never see you or Beth more happy than when we were at Disneyland. Like
Ah,
it was definitely
I love
unlocking
that
some
place.
like real stuff for you guys, and it was fun to watch for sure.
Yeah. Well, at Disney at Christmas, right? The lights
Yeah,
and
it's beautiful.
the
Yeah.
smells and all that stuff. It's just so I think that, there's a ton of nostalgia for me. And then seeing the kids also love that stuff. It's really, yeah, the tech is cool. I love that stuff. But beyond the tech, it's just about seeing the kids, have so much fun and then reliving that through them. So
Yeah.
that's what's
That's
special
all
there.
good. All right, so let's talk about the modern era. So we're now in the 2000s. We've gone from 1886 to the year 2000 when Renee was still younger, not thinner, but just younger.
Yeah, we had that sort of boom right in the 80s and 90s, and I went deep into the financial records of various theme park companies on that. We won't go into that, but by the let's say 2000s, it's quite established, right? Whether it's a Disney thing or a Universal thing, or various parks in other places around the world. I think one of the biggest theme parks is actually in northern France. Like it's a huge place, and it's like themed like Asterix and Obelix or something. But you have to look that up.
Hmm.
But in the 2000s, you get this sort of different experience. This digital experiences on top of physical rides, and it's not just the thrill rides that change. So you have these holdovers or not holdovers, but things that kind of get advanced and updated, whether that's the Spider-Man ride in Universal or Star Tours. Right? These are kind of these motion rides systems are highly computerized, which started to develop in the 80s and then get updated and updated again all throughout the 80s, 90s, then into the 2000s. So that digital experience is quite interesting, layered on top of physical rides. But you also have a bunch of technology that advances the user experience inside the park itself. So RFID wristbands, Disney called them magic bands, which incorporates different kinds of payment options like your cashless payments, fast pass queues, right? So ways to be able to cut the line, essentially. It's a pay to play kind of scenario. The ride photos, right? Everybody remembers this, where you're in the ride, big flash, all of a sudden, and then you run out to the end of the queue, and there's the screens, and you try to figure out where you are, and then before cell phones there were the pictures, and you couldn't take a picture of it. You had to buy the picture. And now they put watermarks on them, so you can't so you can't take a picture with cell phone. But that IoT integration, right, at park scale is there's a ton of technology that runs the theme parks today. We
Well,
go
and
from
then
yeah,
and yeah, they give the end users apps too, right? You can
yeah,
mobile order your food and just pay for it and pick it up, right? Or you can join a
yeah,
virtual line, or you can unlock an AR scavenger hunt while you're waiting. There's a lot they do, I think, for CX when they know you're just going to be
yeah,
standing around way longer than you're actually
yeah,
riding anything. And they have to account for that, right? You have to account for, what am I going to do to keep you entertained while you're waiting to be entertained? That's a big ask for CX, right? That's a big
yeah.
CX ask. And I think you can only do it with technology.
Yeah, I agree. And Disney tried to do that early on by theming the lines themselves, right? Which is an innovation that it's not really a tech innovation per se, but it's an innovation in the way that they treated the customer and that customer experience. But the app experience, right, whether it's mobile food orders or queuing or whatever, it's kind of like a way to overlay technology into the park itself, right? And so you can adjust or change how the park behaves or responds, whether that's for crowd control or ride operation or staffing, right? Those types of things, knowing all of these things are in concurrency, right? It's like a DevOps approach to a park operation, that constant monitoring and failover systems. It's a different kind of approach where you know past generations, single integrations of safety systems or control systems. Now it's every control system, every safety system, every queue system, every ordering system, all integrated with massive APIs and different microservices and servers and systems and all of that running all together.
So while I'm hunting for gumbo, because I think that's what I like to eat when I'm in Disneyland, is the gumbo on my phone.
In the
Someone in the
bowl, in the
background
bread
is,
bowl, right?
yeah, right. It's really good. And someone's debugging code to keep that line moving. Like, people are watching everything all the time. Nothing's left for chance. Like, there's
Yeah.
constant measurement and management going on in that park all day long.
Yeah, I got to see some of this working with some of the players in this space, which is kind of cool. But we'll get to that probably in a little bit here. But it's really interesting and fascinating to see how much of that stuff is the control center for one of the theme parks that I've done some work with. It's like a NASA control center. It's it's really it's a SOC, it's a
Yeah, it
knock,
would have
right?
to be, right?
One over the one.
I need visual on I need telemetry. I need visual
Yeah.
on everybody. I need data on everybody. Here's what I think is really interesting about Disneyland in particular, because I don't know about everybody else, but I do know someone who works in Disney's compliance team, and he's a
Oh yeah.
data scientist. Now, think about this for a minute. Like, you think of compliance, you think, all right, they're accountants, right? Like, it's an accounting job. Now, he's a data scientist, and he said the amount of telemetry data we get from every single ride, every single place that's pulling wattage, like, just pick it. Like, we have to go through all of it. So now we're actually building code and writing code in order to get through the massive amounts of data we have, just to make sure everything's in compliance with safety and regulation, so that we can go
Right.
back and report that, right? And so you think about that and you think, man, that whole place is digital. Like if you looked at it through the matrix, it would just be that green stuff falling down, and it's Disneyland's, castle behind it. Like, it is purely a digital game over there now. Everything they do is around data. All of the of the efficiencies that they're driving, all of that new stuff
Yeah.
that they give you, all of those apps that they give you. It's all driven from data reality, right? And I think that's amazing too. As somebody who talks about nothing but compliance all day long, like that to me is like good for you. Good for you, right? Because compliance needs a digital transformation just like everybody else. And this is the telemetry data that tells us not only that everything's okay, but what we can do to improve it. Can't manage what you don't measure. Disney
Yeah.
measures a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, they measure a lot, and I, I think that's it's weird sometimes having kind of a peek behind the curtain, right? Because you know what is measured and what isn't measured,
Right. Yeah.
and you know what kinds of money and investment is happening in different areas, and and then and then I put my customer hat on and I think, oh man, like this would be such a better customer experience if you did this, or this, right? And then you go talk to folks in various product teams or whatever, and they're like, no, that's not our priority. you know, our priority is this over here. We're launching this new product here, and we've got to make sure that it performs appropriately, or we, collect all the data that we need for it, or whatever.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh man, but if you just did this one thing, I would be able to get my food faster. Don't you
Yeah, they
don't you
don't care about
understand
you. They can only care about you so
that?
much, Mark. And you're like, but
Yeah.
I'm a pass holder in 2 countries. And they're gonna be like, still don't care. You can only
Yeah,
care
yeah.
about one thing at a time.
Yeah. No, trust me, I've done that. I've done that. It's like, do you know who I am? Do, yeah.
I
Look at this. Look at this. I have passes in 2 countries. At two
I deserve
countries.
better. So tell me
Yeah.
about VR and AR, because that's what we're going into now. Like I go to Universal and all you're doing is sitting on a thing and there's a ton of stuff coming at you and you're flying in and out of things. I mean, I did the Simpsons ride. It was pretty
Oh, I
fun.
love that ride.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
love that
fun,
ride.
right? But then,
Yeah.
like the Minion ride, I was like, I can see everybody. I'm not in here alone for sure.
Uh,
And like I don't know that I love the Simpsons one because I love the Simpsons, but like the Harry Potter ride, I don't think I'd care. And like that
mm,
other stuff, I don't think that would be because I don't. They're theme based, and I'm not into that. I have yet to read a Harry Potter book. It would be lost entirely on me.
yeah. Yeah. There's definitely a kind of a, I don't know, a transition, right, from the 3D-ish, right? They're not exactly virtual reality. They're not exactly augmented reality. They're you slap the 3D goggles on, and that 3D goggle stuff gets rendered, right, in motion, or in sync with the movement of the ride system. And Star Wars or Star Tours was really the kind of the precursor on that stuff. And then you had other rides, and one of the Harry Potter rides is like that, but with a much that one is the cars actually move. You're on a broom thing, and they actually move as well as the screens projecting, and then you're in and out and all that stuff. It's quite advanced. But you think about AR and VR and these 3D systems, that stuff it's video, right? And it's high motion video. It's not like 10 frames a second or whatever. It's 24 or better frames a second, probably, closer to 60 frames a second. And, think about the GPUs that you got to have on there. You've got to render some pipelines. You've got those pipelines running. You've got to keep your latency low, because the result, if you don't, is people get sick,
Mm,
right? If the motion of the ride, the physical car, doesn't line up really, really well with the thing that's on the screen, or the thing that you're seeing in your glasses, or the thing that you've got strapped on your head, then you're going to get sick, right? You're going to get motion sick. And some people are more sensitive to it than others. I never really was too bad with it until I got old, right?
yeah, see,
You get
I'm
old,
bad with it
everything
now
happens.
too.
Yeah. So the kids are like, "Hey, we want to do Star Tours." And I'm like, "Okay, let's put the glasses on." And then I take the glasses off and I just sit there and close my eyes or something,
And no one can tell
Uh,
because they're all still wearing them.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that tech on that, right? The render pipelines and the compute systems, that edge computing processing happens really close to the edge, sometimes right there at the ride, to
Mm.
keep all of that smooth, because the latency on it, even a couple of milliseconds off, and it's enough to make people motion sickness. So there, that stuff happens really close to the ride, and that's expensive tech that gets run right there, and it's a lot of compute power and processing servers and render towers and stuff like that, all sit really close to that stuff, if not right there in a very close data center, connected by some fast fiber stuff.
Well, and okay, that's a lot of power. That's a lot of power, right? So sustainability is a resilience story too, right? Solar power, regenerative braking, smart waste management, making sure the park itself can withstand future demands. The infamous Hulk ride at Universal Islands of Adventure drew so much power that Universal had to build its own power station to supplement the power demand from the launch systems. Now, that sounds crazy, but can I just remind everybody in Culver City, Sony Studios has its own power just so that it can always make movies and CGI. Like it is a real like suck on power, and you really do have to have a way to manage that. It literally, I mean, they could have built it next to 3 Mile Island, and then they they would have been set.
Or right next to one of those giant
Hoover
gigawatt,
Dam, just put it right next to
yeah,
Hoover Dam.
yeah, those giant gigawatt data centers, right?
Exactly. Like you got to build it right next to one of those because they're going to have their own power sources too. So it's okay. So I think the idea of bringing apps and VR and all that it's really pretty amazing. But like I'm torn with apps. On one hand, I'm glad I have them. On another hand, I have PTSD from them. So I don't know what to do with that. I don't know if I want to get like, hey, Renee, if you got into this ride right now, if you get into the line right now, you'll only wait 45 minutes. Quick, let's run. Like, I just don't see how that's an enjoyable thing. That's not how I want to spend my day. Right?
it's a it's a new type of anxiety, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like you're forcing me to have a good time. That's not fun. Yeah. So what is one of those? Did you ever do that stuff? Did you ever do the Magic Band stuff? Did you ever do what projects were you working on that would have been close to that idea that it's a
Uh,
mobile function and it needs to be constantly connected and there's processing going on behind it, all in the name of a better experience.
yeah, I won't say which business it was. I've done a couple of these projects. There was one that was pretty interesting, and it was an AR kind of application. So the AR application you could use inside the park and look around, because AR, you're looking at your phone, at your device,
Hmm.
and then it renders the real and the unreal right there on your phone, so you can see things that aren't actually there. And we did a little bit of a proof of concept, a scenario where you could go kind of like Pokemon Go and do AR type scavenger hunting. And then you could bring that little character that you found in the park home with you and then interact with it inside your home. That was kind of fun. We did a mobile ordering proof of concept once, because I haven't been to California or Florida for several years, but in Paris for a long time you couldn't actually order food on an app, which I thought was just insane, right? 2018, 2019,
Mm.
whatever, and you're like you can't order food on the app. What's up with that? And so we did a project with one of these companies, proof of concept, where we basically demoed mobile ordering system, and then tried to show how many benefits there were, right? Higher spend, more throughput, more predictability,
Mm.
booking systems and all of this. And then they were like, yeah, no, that's not our highest priority. But this is that scenario where I was like, oh, but come on, the customer experience. I'm the customer. I'm telling you, this is but eventually they did roll that stuff out, which is cool, and you've seen it adopted in lots of places now. So I think that integration is happening not just in those ways, but now you're starting to see the apps turn into uh, a ride booking and tickets. I think I used the app in Paris, Disneyland Paris last year for booking seats. I didn't pay anything. I just pre-booked a seat
Mm,
for one of the shows, which I think is cool, right? It's a little bit like, oh, I can do this on the app and then I don't have to wait in line,
mm,
or maybe the line is shorter, which I think with all the telemetry that exists inside of these theme parks, you would think that you could probably do a pretty good job of helping people plan what rides they want to go on, what restaurants they want to eat at, what shows they want to see, that kind of thing. And I think that's starting to emerge. As I said, I haven't been to some of the U.S. theme parks, but I've been to some of the like Hong Kong and Japan and the Disney parks, and then some of the other non-Disney stuff outside the U.S. And it's you know for all its faults, Disney is like not exactly bleeding edge on that kind of customer experience stuff, but they're not lagging, as well. So there are some cool applications there. But I kind of get what you're saying, right? Do I really want the mobile experience to overtake the physical experience? And I kind of think no. Because half the fun is watching people.
Think about it though. Like in 2013, Disney spent over $1 billion on its Magic Band. Now, the first time I saw that is 2015. I'm there for a conference for disaster
Yeah.
recovery or something, and I'm checking in, and they give me this thing, and I'm like, "What is
Yeah.
this?" Right? And they're like, "You wear it," and I'm like, "For what?" Like, are you like?
Yeah.
Because I'm a security and risk person. Like, I don't like you
Right.
knowing where the heck I am. And they're like, "Well, it's how you get into your room." I'm like, "Uh-huh." And it's how you pay for things on the property. I'm like, uh-uh. Like,
Uh,
I'm not doing this. Like, there's no
yeah.
because it is easy to walk around that place going tap, 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 tap. And next thing you know, I got a
But
bill for $4,000, right?
but
Like
that's
that's
the
what
point.
yeah, I know that's the point, but, like, I had to gear myself for it. I'm like, "I'm not falling for it. I'm not falling for it. I'm not wearing
Yeah.
this, and I'm not falling for it." But I could see why a family of 4, when the kids are
Yeah.
off and they're teenagers, like, yeah, use your band, don't spend more than $30, and if you do, I'm
Yeah.
taking it
Yeah.
out of your
Yeah.
money,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
think that's really interesting, and to think that they spent $1 billion on it. It was basically an
Yeah.
IoT rollout at a city scale, but the same problems. Just what I said, security, privacy, uptime, user
Right.
adoption, like, it's all out, and the user adoption, all you can catch them once. Like, you catch them once, and if they say no, that's it. Right? And so, like, that
Yeah.
part of it for me, like, I was thinking about that, like, rolling out something like that. I think a lot of people would adopt it. I think they would use it. I think they would keep it as a souvenir and that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
but there are a class of us who would be like, "No, you don't need to know my geolocation data and where I spend money, how much I spent, and who I was with. No, no." Yeah.
Yeah. So magic bands. I don't know if they're still doing magic bands, but the idea, the concept, and frankly, from a security perspective, I can't remember. I think I was at Chase or maybe one of the other places, and Disney was a customer, and we looked at it and we're like, well, this is great because you're not storing the card data. Because sometimes in the past, I won't say, which companies, but some companies would store card data. And then for every transaction, they would buzz that card. And merchants shouldn't be storing card data. So they had a token system,
Mhm,
right? And the token system was great because that was the way that you could run those cards, but keep the data secure in a central vault, or use somebody else's token system, which is I think what we were trying to get them to do. Uh, but there was an interoperability problem, and with early implementations of tokens and stuff like that. But that's a different topic some other time. But the payment side of things, which is where I really got involved, you know, the friction on it is super low,
mm,
right? It's your room key, as you said. It's the thing you use to pay for stuff. It's how you get into parks.
mm,
I mean, that's pretty cool. And then the Magic Band stuff was like the your card. ramped up, 10x with the tagging and geolocation.
Yeah,
And
see, yeah.
I, I can't remember what wireless protocol they were using. I can't remember if it was Bluetooth or BLE or one of the
Did they
others.
did they ever use it to see how what part of the park was busy, where everybody was? What did they look at it in real
Yeah,
time for like just
yeah,
mobs of people?
yeah. I'm not sure. I didn't come across that. I think they're pretty quiet about it, and that's not something I was working on one way or the other. But if they were using one of the wireless protocols, they could, in theory, have mapped a density in certain areas. Although, like I've looked at a lot of the research on wireless density mapping and stuff, human density mapping, and it works pretty well, but it doesn't work really great when you get really dense crowds. So I would think that if you if you did that, use that as a telemetry mechanism or bit of data, that the most it would tell you when you're crowding was just, oh, it's too crowded.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I'm not sure how capable they were on that stuff. But you know what? Like with mobile phones, like
Eh,
thinking about where you're going, like everybody in that park is walking around with a mobile phone, and everybody has probably got the app because they want to see how long it takes to get onto whatever ride.
right.
Me, 50 minutes to get onto Peter Pan. No, I'm not going to do it. I'll wait. But everybody's got the app, right? And if everybody's got the app, like what crowdsourcing capabilities do you have in that scenario? I think I think that's kind of cool. I should probably reach out to some of my contacts over there and just, you know, pick their brain and see what they're doing with that
Hey,
stuff.
yeah, while you're talking to them, ask them what they're doing with AI because that's the future, right? If we look ahead, that's where we're headed. So, how do you think they're going to leverage AI in the theme parks? I mean, part of it's going to be safety, but I think part of it's going to be, customer experience, right? Like there, you have a ton of opportunity there, don't you think?
I think so. It's funny because for the last few episodes, right, we've talked about what's the future, and the future is like, well, AI, and I don't think that that's understating or overstating. I think it's just the reality of where things are going, because that level of integration, whether it's AI or robotics, it's kind of the next frontier, right? What happens when a ride adjusts intensity based on heart rate or stress level, right? I was watching the Apple, announcement yesterday, and they did a whole section on the AirPods and the AirPod Pro thing. And the AirPods can tell you your heart rate and stress levels and how long you've walked and all that sort of stuff. And if you think about it, the level of telemetry that you have on a phone or a smartwatch or now AirPod Pros, right? Like you could tell when people aren't happy. You could tell when stress is higher. You could tell when heart rate increases, and you can adjust conditions potentially given that information.
So
Um,
instead of don't stand up and keep your hands inside, it's like, may I read your biometrics, please? And I will keep you safe.
Yeah,
Right?
I think so, right? And perhaps you start to use that for personalization of the thrill rides themselves, right? The
That's a
resilience
crazy
question.
idea. Yeah, that's a
Yeah, it
crazy
is a little
idea.
crazy. But I think I, and that's there's a bit at odds, right? Because that personalization could be really cool, but could you do that personalization at scale, right? Thinking about one of my kids' my favorite rides, the Haunted Mansion. The concurrency is quite high on that ride. The riders per hour is among the highest in the industry. It's about 2,400
Mm.
riders per hour at peak. So that's really pretty high. So could you adapt that experience to a personalized experience? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Imagineers are smarter than me. I'm sure they're thinking about those sorts of things. But
The ghost sitting in my car
yeah,
behind me looks like my grandmother, like that kind of thing. Like that would be cool.
right. Yeah, yeah, that would be no, that wouldn't be
Be
cool.
cool. It's grandma.
Oh, look, look, kids. Oh, look.
Oh, look at Scout.
Uh,
He's here. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and then the question becomes, what happens when the ride changes, the experience changes just enough, right, that it puts it near or over some safety protocol, right? How do you keep things safe if the experience changes in real time? D- does that what kinds of boundaries or guidelines do you have in place in order for that to work, right? Is that a set of override systems or human oversight? You can't just shut off the ride mid loop, right? That's not going to work. That's not going to
Yeah,
work.
people would be mad and all their blood would rush to their head. And most people, when they're hanging upside down in a ride, don't look happy. It happens every once in a while. And I'll say that they just
Yeah,
don't look happy. I'll say that.
yeah. Well, and that particular use case, right, hanging upside down is pretty rare because the fail safe on those rides is essentially the blocking system. And if you fail inside of a loop, it's not usual or typical to fail inside the loop because they're quite open systems.
Yeah.
And what happens is that there's a block on the next section, and they can't proceed into the next section, but normally it would complete the loop and then stop right at the next open block. But it's rare that those happen upside down, and I would argue that a ride that allows for that for people to be blocked upside down is a pretty poor design of a ride.
Yeah, I usually see it in like those like fairs where it's that
Oh,
ground circle
yeah.
thing and that thing just goes around
Well,
and around and then it has no blocks and
yeah.
it does get stuck and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay, so but I'm okay. In the end, I'm rooting for physical parks, right? Like I definitely am a low tech girl in that regard. I love the wooden roller coasters. I love the smell of funnel cake. I love, the potato patch where I can get my French fries like fresh made. Like I love that experience. I love the slow. I love a good merry-go-round. Can I just be fair? Like a really good carousel, I'm all in it.
Yeah.
If I can
Yeah.
grab a brass ring, I'm even happier. Can I tell you the first carousels, though, in the 1900s went so fast, people flung off them and, and
Yeah.
got hurt. They had to slow them down like a lot. They were pretty dangerous in the beginning, but I love a good carousel. So, like, I want low tech. I want physical parks. I can do away with the VR and the 360 movies and just put me on a wooden roller coaster and let it go clank, 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 clank. Like that's it for me. That's it. Clank, 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 clank.
Sure. I think that's okay, right? I My guess is that we'll probably have some sort of hybrid situation where you're not going to get a thrill ride in your house, right? There's definitely going to be a physical component of a park. You're definitely going to go someplace and have that experience. But I think that there'll be changes in the way that those experiences are tailored to you in real time. And you start to see storylines that not necessarily changing of rides, but storylines change, and Disney experimented with this with their Galaxy's Edge concept, which I think they abandoned, frankly, which doesn't surprise me because it hasn't quite got there. But I think that they'll have there's definitely going to be some sort of hybrid scenario where there's a digital experience that sits on top of a physical sets of
Mm.
rides. But at the end of the day, right, the resilience is the backbone. That's going to be the thing that is consistent regardless of analog wooden coaster or the latest and greatest VR, motion whatever thing. So if you're up for wooden coasters and physical rides and click 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 and smacking you around and you get whiplash and stuff, what would go the other way for you? Like, what would your dream future ride be? Like, what would be the thing that you'd be like, oh, I'd be up for that. I'd be up for that.
I, you know, it. I think it already exists and I haven't ridden it yet. And I think it's the beast. Like it is the end all be all of wooden coasters. It is long. It is rough. It's got a lot of zero G in it. It's been around
Uh,
forever. When I first went to Kings Island in Cincinnati, Ohio, because we could drive to it, I was too young to ride it. I wasn't tall enough because
ah,
it's fast and it's rough. And so I wasn't old enough to ride it. And ever since then, it's been like, I got to get back to Cincinnati. I got to get back to Cincinnati. I got to ride that thing. I got to ride
yeah,
that thing. Right. And so for me, like the bucket list ride is the beast.
the beast. Okay.
And I would do it over and over and over again for a whole day. And then I think I would be okay with
Oh,
it. Right. But it is an unbelievable roller coaster. It's probably one of the best wooden coasters in the world. And I want it. I want to be on it. But that would be it for me. A giant wooden coaster that blocked the sun. Like there it is. I don't know what you call it, giganticus, and like it's got like crazy dinosaurs everywhere like, as you go in, and then you ride this thing, and it's unbelievable, and it's long, and it's rough, and it's tall, and it's fast, and like that's what you want, and it's an open car, and it makes a lot of noise, and you swallow bugs. I'm in. I'm all in.
oh
I'm
no.
all in. I'm all in.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the wooden coaster
I
thing.
love it. I
I don't
love
know.
it.
Yeah,
So, what
I
kind
don't
of
know.
technology would you want to see if you could do any experiment? If you could bring anything to an amusement park, what would you do? What would you bring?
To be honest, it's probably pretty boring stuff because I I like to experience the park through the eyes of the kids. So for me, that's the most fun. But so the tech that I would bring would probably be something like, I don't know, you download the app, you say, these are the rides that I want to go on. Chat GPT, tell me how to do this, or actually pre-book my slots in every single one of these rides that we want to do. And we want to do this one 3 times, and we want a reservation at this restaurant, and we want to get there at 10 a.m. Right, so that it's the day is planned, right? And I can skip out on things, but if I skip out on something, then I got to go to the next thing, at the right time. I think that tech would be cool because it probably gives you a sense of, oh, I didn't miss out on something,
Mm,
because we tend to go to these types of places and spend multiple days, and we'll do this park one day and then this park the other day, and then we'll have a third day and be like, oh well, that'll be the day where we kind of clean up, right? We go to do the things that we missed,
mm.
and then everybody has the list. This is, well, I did this, I did this, I did this. You know, uh, what's the one thing that you want to go do? And I think in an app that would help you arrange all that stuff,
I
that's
mean,
what
why
I
not?
would
We
do.
do it at conferences. Like, pick the stuff you want to
Yeah,
do, and then AI can put it in an
yeah,
order when it's the least busy, so you can go around that park, like managing it. I think that's a good
right.
idea. That's actually a really good idea. Is anybody using AI today in parks? Are they using it for anything, or are they still in the experimental mode with that stuff?
I haven't seen any implementations just yet, so I don't know. I haven't. I'm sure they're using it in lots of different ways behind the scenes, but I haven't seen it on the customer side yet, and I haven't seen any articles or data or anything like that suggests that. But I'm sure that they are. Disney in particular spends a ton of money on robotics, special effects, these kinds of things. I'm sure there's AI applications in some of those areas, but I haven't seen that. My guess is that there's maybe not so much AI, but ML
Uh,
algorithms in some of the rides. There's the trackless rides. I've seen the trackless rides do this. There's actually two that I've been on that are really cool. One is in Paris, one is in Hong Kong, and you sit in the thing, and it has a transmitter on it, and there's no track, so the ride cars move around in the space that you're in, and they don't bump on each other or
hmm.
smack each other or anything like that. So you get to kind of move around in the space without being on a track. And if one is occupying a certain space, it won't move in those areas. So there's a bit of that. I don't know how advanced those are, other than just kind of basic ML avoidance kinds of algorithms. So I don't know. I'm sure that a lot of the players in this space are experimenting, and probably within the next few years we'll see some interesting applications.
All right.
All right. I think that takes us to the end. From steam powered Ferris wheels to AI driven coasters, amusement parks have always been showcases for technology and resilience of their time.
And they remind us that tech isn't about productivity, it's also about joy. So, what's your favorite ride and why? Hit us up on social media or send us an email and maybe tell Marc why wooden coasters still deserve admiration and respect. They do.
All right, everybody. Thanks for riding along with us. Catch you later, nerds.